What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a really exciting video and I am coming at you with an Asian book recommendation. We are in the month of May, so I thought it would be the perfect time to do this video because it is Asian Heritage Month. All of these books are written by Asian author. Not all of them has an Asian main character. I mean, most of them do, but not all of them do. I would love it if you guys would recommend some books down below as well, especially if they are thrillers. I really need some thriller books that are written by Asian author. I only have one that I read like 2 days ago, and so I really would love some Asian book thrillers. If you guys can leave me some recommendation in the comments down below, I would love it. And I'm gonna go over them pretty quickly because I have a lot to talk to you guys about today. So without further ado, let's get started. So I guess I'll start with the ones I do not have a physical copy with me. The first one I want to talk to you guys about is A Sweet Mess by J.C. Lee. This is a romance book. It is a foodie romance book, as you can tell by the cover of it. I ended up not loving that book, but I still wanted to put it on this list because I still enjoyed it and I thought it was a really cute, fun romance book, so I thought it would be really good. It is a foodie book and I love food, so I still wanted to put it on this list. This is about a girl named Audrey, and she owns a bakery in this small town. And then one day this food critic comes in her bakery and it's kind of chaos that day in that bakery, and he ends up tasting this like bun cake, but that was supposed to go to like a 6-year-old birthday party. So in that bun cake there's like gummy worms and like peanut butter. It's like the weirdest thing ever. So he writes this critic that's like not very good. And then one night Audrey ends up going to a bar and he meets that food critic without knowing it's him, and they end up having a one-night stand. In order to clean up his mess, he basically invites her to this cooking show that he owns to help with her image, and obviously they fall in love, and it's a really cute, fun story. I loved both of them individually. I thought the characters were really fun. I loved Audrey as like a character. I loved her drive and ambition. You can really see her passion for food and baking in the book. It really transpired throughout the pages, so I loved seeing that. I just didn't really like the romance. I felt it was a little bit insta love, but there was so much food reference in that book. They're both Korean American, I'm pretty sure, so there was a lot of Korean food in that book as well. I really enjoyed it. When I gave it 3 stars. It was a fun, cute book, so that's why I still wanted to put it on this list. The next one I'm going to talk to you guys about is another romance book, and it is Crazy Rich Asian by Kevin Kwan. This is a trilogy, I'm pretty sure. The first book has been turned into a movie. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a really cute, fun book and movie as well. This is about a girl named Rachel, and she's been dating this guy for a little while. His family is from Singapore, so they end up going back to Singapore in order for her to meet his family. Little did they know he is this like really crazy rich Asian person. It's so much fun. I've listened to the audiobook. It's basically like drama, rich people drama. It is like daytime TV, but like so much better. If you've seen the movie, it's the same vibe, but like 10 times better. I love this one. The book also focuses a lot more on the side characters than what the movie did because it is a trilogy. So I think in the books you really see more of the side character, which was really fun to see. I listened to the audiobook for that one and I would highly recommend. It was just so much fun. It was just such a fun time. It was really good and I really liked it. The next book that I want to talk to you guys about is Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is a YA contemporary book. It is about this guy named, I don't remember his name, Frank, and Frank is a Korean American. His family expects him to marry this Korean girl. This is what they have planned for him, but he is in love with this white girl. So in order to like deceive his parents, he ends up fake dating another Korean American girl. This book ended up being so much more than just like a fake dating romance book. I ended up loving this book. I thought it was really well done. Apparently this is a series that I just figured it out when I went on Goodreads earlier, which makes a little bit more sense now because I do remember the ending kind of being a little bit open ending and just feeling a little bit weird about the ending. So I should probably read the second book. I loved that we get so much discussion in this book about like family. Family is really important. There's a lot of discussion about racism, about identity, what it's like for him to grow up in a Korean American family, the duality in him having to being raised with these Korean values and being this Korean family, but in this like other country. I really ended up really enjoying this book. I remember not loving Frank in the beginning, but he really grew on me and I ended up loving this book. I would highly recommend this one. And so I know it's a little bit older, but I still love this one, so I would recommend this one. The next books that I have for you guys are from the same author, and it is Jenny Han. As an author, I really enjoyed her book. She writes YA contemporary book. The first one that I would recommend is The Summer I Turned Pretty. This is the one that I was talking about, that it is written by an Asian author, but there's no Asian representation in the book. But I would still recommend this one. It's a really fun, this is a little bit young. It's basically a coming of age story. It's about this girl who every summer would go to this summer house, and then one day she's like falling in love with the boy next door. So it's like a coming of age, romancy, really cute, fun story. I know this is being turned into a TV show maybe, or movies, I'm not sure, but I will really recommend this one if you are younger out there. And then the other book by Jenny Han that I have here is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. This has been turned into a movies. I think all three of the books have been turned into a movies. I mean, we all know what this one is about. It is super cute, super fun. It's the movies, from what I remember, are pretty close to the book. It's about this girl named Laura Jane, who every time she has a crush on a boy basically would write him a letter, but she would keep those letters for herself. And then one day all those letters are being mailed to the guys, to the boys, and like she doesn't know why, and it's kind of embarrassing for her. And this is another coming of age type of story, but a little bit older. It's still very much YA, but it's just a little older than The Summer I Turned Pretty. The first two books I really enjoyed, the last one not so much. But I would really recommend at least the first one. It was really fun, really cute, and I really enjoyed this one. The next one that I have for you guys are once again an author, and it is Mary A.K. Choi. She wrote Permanent Record and Emergency Contact. I've recently read Emergency Contact, and I read this one a little last year, I think, or the year before. The cover, but this has nothing to do with the book, but the cover is so fun. It's like this clear jacket. I thought it was really fun. Out of the two, I will say I think I enjoyed Permanent Record a little bit better. It's about this guy named Pablo, and he's kind of not going nowhere in his life, but he's working at this like 24-hour deli in Brooklyn. He's kind of struggling with life, and then one day he meets this pop star named Lena, and then they end up having a relationship, and that's the story of this one. And then Emergency Contact is about this girl who moves for college, and then she meets this guy who is the uncle basically of her roommate, and like some circumstances they end up being their emergency contact, and they form this relationship together. I will say I didn't love both of these, but I still think they're really like good books to read. I know a lot of people have loved them, so that's why I wanted to put them on my list. I would recommend them if you guys are interested in them. And now let's go into my pile of fantasy book. I do have a lot of fantasy books to talk to you guys about, a lot of YA, a lot of adult. First one I want to talk to you guys about is a series, and it is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is a pretty popular series. It's been going around on BookTube for a while now. This is about a girl named Rin who in the beginning of the first book, she takes this test in order for her to go to this military academy, and she gets in, and then she kind of trains to become this warrior, but she's being thrown into war, and then that's how the story starts. This is so good, guys. It is very dark. I don't know if it's grim dark, but it has some really grim elements to it. It's very, very graphic at some times. I really enjoy this one. The magic element is really interesting. It's basically, it has a lot of historical elements to it, real historical elements to it. This was so good, and I am still reading the third book, but I would still highly recommend at least the first two ones. I really enjoyed this one. The next book that I want to talk to you guys about is another adult fantasy book, and it is The Sword of Kagan by M.L. Wong. I feel like everybody forgot about this book, but guys, this was so good. I feel like this was being talked about a lot last year, and everyone like stopped talking about this one. Every time I want to summarize this book, I have some trouble. This follows a family that lives on this like piece of land peninsula that is called the Sword of Kagan. It is called the Sword of Kagan because they are very military based. They basically are there to protect the rest of the continent. That's their role, that's why they're there, and they have this really cool magic abilities, kind of like water bending basically. That's the best analogy that I can make. And one day this new kid comes into school, and he's listening to this like history class, and he's like, what is this? This is not true. Turns out the people on this it's not an island, the people on this like peninsula have been fed lies by the government for like years, because the government wants them to stay in their old ways, stay very military. And then that's kind of how the story picks up. This is very family oriented. It's very sad. It's a very sad book, hard book to read as well. But the magic system is so cool. And I mean, everybody who reads this book knows that at some point something happens that will change your life forever. But honestly, I would highly recommend this book. I read it twice last year. That's how much I loved it, and I don't reread book very often. Get tissues prepared when you are reading this, because this is very emotional, but I would still highly recommend this one. And then the last adult fantasy book that I have on my list today is Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is another trilogy book that I finished recently, and this is so good. I know a lot of people are talking about this book, but with good reason. So this basically follows the Call family. They live on an island called Kakon Island, and on that island people can use jade to give them magic abilities, to give them magical powers. This island is being ruled by some clan. The Call clan is part of the No Peaks clan, and then we have the Mountain clan that has been at war with each other for like years and years and years. And this is kind of where this story picks up. This is kind of a Godfather with like politics and magic and some martial arts sprinkled in it. This was so good. I love this one. The third book was amazing. Like, for anything else, read the first two books just for the last book, because the last book was freaking amazing. I love that one. I will say the first maybe like 30% of the first book is pretty slow, but Fonda Lee is the queen of ending. Like, all of her books have amazing ending. These characters are so well built. The storyline, everything is so well thought of. It's an urban fantasy book, so it's a little bit different than everything else that I've talked about on this list, and I would highly recommend this one. It was fantastic. So now let's go into a few YA fantasy books. The first one is kind of similar to Jade City, but really not at all at the same time, and it is These Violent Delight by Chloe Gong. This is basically a 1920s retelling of Romeo and Juliet with gangs and clangs. It was so good. I love this one. I still haven't read the last one because I kind of want to reread this one and then read the last one. This is a YA, and it's very much YA, but there are some parts that are pretty descriptive and gets pretty gross, so just be prepared for that. Maybe it got a little bit gross at some time, but this was so good, guys. I love this one. I would highly recommend it. This is very different than anything that I've read. I will say the Romeo and Juliet aspect is very, very tame. It's not like as much of a retelling as you think it would be, but you can still see it, you can still see the reference of it, and I love this one. I highly recommend it. And then the last book that I want to talk to you guys about are all from the same author, and this is Elizabeth Lim. As an author, I would recommend her works. The first one that I've read from her is probably my favorite, and it is Reflection. This is a twisted tale, so it is basically what if Mulan had to travel the underworld. All these twisted tales are taking the Disney movie and putting like a darker twist on it. It read like a video game. It was so fast paced. I love this one. My only complaint is no Mushu in this book, which, like, who took that decision? I don't know why they decided to scrap Mushu, but there is another character kind of to replace Mushu, but he's not as good as Mushu. Let's be clear. But I love this book. I read it super quickly, and then I got really interested in Elizabeth Lim, which is why I've read her other books. I will say this is the most different than her other two books. I feel like her other two books that I've read are pretty similar, but this one is the most like different from the genre, because it's like her other ones are like whimsical, very young-ish, very cutesy, and this one is a little bit more fast-paced. There's a little bit more action in this one, and so but I really enjoy this one. And so, like I said, the other two books that I've read from Elizabeth Lim are Splendid Dawn and Six Crimson Crane. These two are like a little bit more similar to each other. Like, even the cover, you can kind of tell they have the same vibe to it. They're a little bit young. This is a little bit younger, and this one I did enjoy a little bit better. This is about this girl named Princess Shiori, and on the day that she's supposed to marry this other guy, she kind of loses control and maybe shows that she has some magic abilities, magic powers, which does not come unnoticed to her stepmother, and her stepmother basically decides to turn all of her 6 brothers into crane, and every time she speaks a word, every time Shiori speaks a word, one of her brothers has to die, and basically it's her trying to break that curse. This was really cute, really like sweet, read like a Disney fairy tale book, very young. This is YA, but it reads like a middle grade. It's very young, very sweet. I really enjoyed that one. It was read really quickly. This is a duology, I'm pretty sure, so I'm really excited to read the second one. And then the other one that I have that I read by her is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. This one I didn't love as much. I will say this one had more potential. I loved the first half of it. I thought it was so cool. This kind of Mulan meets Project Runway. It's about this girl, I don't remember her name, but she takes the place of her father to become the king's tailor. Father or brother? I'm not sure. Maybe her brother. So she goes to the court and takes part in this competition to become the king's tailor. The first half of the book I really enjoyed. I thought it was really fun, and in the second half of the book the setting kind of changed and I didn't love it as much, but I would still recommend it. I know a lot of people have loved this book, so that's why I also wanted to put it on this list. I do want to pick up the sequel one day. I thought it was interesting. There was a love story in the second half of the book, which I come from. I love romance book. I love love. I love love story in books, and I did not like the romance in this book. So that kind of tells you a little bit about it. But I still thought it was really cute, and it had a lot of potential. So yeah guys, that's it. Those are all of the Asian book recommendations that I have for you guys today. I know there's a lot more out there. There's a lot that I want to read. I would love it if you guys would comment down below with some of your favorite Asian books that you've read recently. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or night depending on when you're watching this, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!